Hello.
Is we don't have it yet. Don't think.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
All right. Cool.
Sandy and Ryan, can you hear us?
Yes.
Yes, I can.
Can you? Awesome.
I think we're waiting. I think Commissioner Kerr and Commissioner Layden were gonna be online. So let's see what happens. We got a couple minutes.
That's spring. Church right versus.
Standard guys.
How to do that, like that people or something?
No.
We usually have athletic fields on by April 1st.
Yeah.
Just because we're gonna start turf and yeah, it could be anywhere from kind of weather, anytime in April, usually 5 May, we'll have the other parks on.
Okay. Future, all that snow melt just made Cheshire Park look like a lake.
Right. I saw that, yeah. And I think Commissioner Stackhouse, I think, was gonna come in person. We still need to wait a few minutes to ensure that we have quorum. So far, yeah. We could get started if you wanted to. Okay, we're already recording since we've got one. If you want, sure. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our March Parks and Recreation Commission meeting. We'll start by call to order, and we'll jump right into roll call. So I am here. We have Commissioner Kerr.
Here. Sorry, I couldn't be in person.
That's all right. Commissioner Heath.
I'm here. Thanks.
Commissioner Layden. Commissioner Martin.
Here.
And Commissioner Smith. Commissioner Stackhouse will be here. He'll be joining us in a bit. And do we have Councilmember Paris on board today?
Do not see her.
Okay. Well, thank you everyone for attending. We do have quorum, so go ahead and read the land acknowledgement. The Flagstaff Parks and Recreation Commission humbly acknowledges the ancestral homelands of this area's indigenous nations and original stewards. These lands still inhabited by the native descendants border mountains sacred to indigenous peoples. We honor them, their legacies, their traditions, and their continued contributions. We celebrate the past, present, and future generations who will forever know this place as home. Good. We have approval of minutes. I couldn't see those minutes.
They didn't show up. Okay.
I'm just emailing, I emailed Kathy last week. Letting her know that it was just me, but I just tried it again. And I couldn't get them. Anyone online, were you able to pull those up, the minutes?
I
No,
wasn't.
I wasn't.
Is that a no?
The no for all.
Should we just
Yeah.
skip
No.
Yeah.
that next meeting?
Yeah, they've got some new software that we're trying to work through and, as you probably saw, we have some different staff working on this, so we'll get that fixed and you can approve 3 months worth of minutes at the next meeting.
Very good. So we'll table that for now until next. Comments. So this portion of the meeting is for items that are not on the agenda. The commission cannot act on items presented during the public participation on the agenda. The commission is prohibited by the open meeting law from discussing or considering the item until the item is officially placed on the agenda. If we have any comments, please limit those comments to 5 minutes. Have anyone from the public who wishes to comment at this time?
Anyone?
Everyone. Guy in my office always says he's gonna call in because he wants to request slides.
More water slides. Here comes Commissioner Layden. Yep, I don't see anyone for public comment.
Okay. Welcome, Commissioner Layden.
Oh
Can
my
you hear?
gosh.
Commissioner Layden, we can hear you, just so you know.
Okay. So we'll move on to our first agenda item, which is the recap of current capital projects.
Absolutely. So I did do a presentation on this. Let me get that loaded for everyone, including for our virtual participants. And then here is Commissioner Stackhouse. Perfect timing, Commissioner Stackhouse. Okay, so this item, so I wanted to go over currently this fiscal year, some of our capital projects, especially, there's a handful of them that are completed. And then there's some that are considered operating capital. So ongoing capital funds that are within each section to utilize what we need, whether if it's in our 24+ parks or our 60 miles of trails or our 4 recreation centers. Then we have some of those larger capital project items too. So what's first started with the P in our acronyms, we've got the parks operating capital. And this isn't everything, but it's a good example of some of those smaller projects and improvements that the Parks Department is able to do within, now that we've got our BBB rec capital plan, where we used to have to save some of these funds to maybe deliver something as large as like a playground structure. But now with this new BBB rec capital 5-year plan, this enables us to do some of these other projects. So the first one there on the upper left of your screen is at Thorpe Park. That is the multi-purpose field. There's a before and an after image, because before, you can see, if you can zoom in there, there were bollards up, some fencing. It was not accessible necessarily. It was just kind of an awkward design. So the Parks Department wanted to create a better project there, as well as with a better lock gate and locking system. So that way, if we ever need to lock the fields, we can, which we could not before necessarily, and also open it for maintenance equipment, plus poured some new accessible approaches there off the parking lot. So awesome project that Parks Department did in partnership with a concrete vendor and concrete contractor. To stand then over to the right, that was the cemetery columbarium. So that was a new columbarium out at our citizen cemetery for niches and for cremains. And The team did an excellent job of performing that project where the slab underneath had to be poured first, and then the precast niche structure brought in and then placed with a crane. So another neat project that the team was able to complete out there. Then going down on the bottom left, some of the, I started to see a theme when I was putting this together where there's like a lot of gates and entrances. But that's our park shop on the bottom left, where we used to have a manual gate that you had to open and close and lock, which would become pretty hilarious, especially in the wintertime, for any of us that were the last person standing to close that thing. So we were able to get a new gate on a new track and roller, plus there's a keypad, and so it's automated, much safer for everyone, and just a better security of our the backside of the shop there, where all equipment, and there are also some storage buildings, so it's just protecting that asset plus making that a safer entrance. Then another project the parks team has been doing is some of our kiosk signage at some of our parks, and doing new signage there. It looks awesome. That's an example at the Flagstaff Little League fields there along North Aztec within Greater Thorpe Park. So those have been really cool for the team to accomplish them. I believe Greater Thorpe Park was the first location identified for this signage project. And so that includes Thorpe Multipurpose Field, that includes the Bark Park, that includes the Thorpe Softball Complex. So some of these locations are starting to get better identified, including with an address. That also includes our OC Montoya Senior and Community Center. So that's also identified. And then kind of the in general Thorpe Park with the play structure, tennis courts, and other features like that. So it's kind of neat to go through this process and actually get the actual addresses on there too, which can be helpful for anyone. Some other projects that are going on within Parks operating capital. That first image there was a recent one. The Parks team just completed the McMillan Park backstop for the basketball court. So staff discussed last year, they're like, there's a basketball court there, and then a sidewalk, and then a road, Pine Cliff. Like, that's not that safe if people playing in the park, if their balls are rolling out into the street or anything like that. So came up with this cool backstop idea behind the hoop, so that will prohibit that. So it was really a safety measure for our community above anything else, and the team did a great job with that one. Have been doing some new furnishings, and what we mean by that are things like grills, benches, bicycle fix-it stations, amenities like that within our park grounds. The image here on the bottom with 4 of the park's co-workers there is the Bushmaster Skate Park fence renovation. So that used to have I think it was 6 foot tall black iron fencing. All of that was removed, and what was put up in place is similar to our urban trail fencing, just not with 3 horizontal posts, instead just 2. And we're able to take down, I believe, some shrubs, some juniper along with this. So it really opened up the skate park to the rest of the park. I think for multiple things, it was definitely a beautification aspect to this. And then I think there's also an aspect on wanted behaviors now, because it's not as easy to hide inside a 6 foot tall fenced in area, also with shrubs, and maybe do unwanted behavior. So this really opened it up, and we think this was a neat project for the team to complete. One that should maybe upcoming this fiscal year would be out at Continental Park. We wanted to do some type of a tot lot. There's a space there between fields 1 and 5, kind of a concourse area where we have heard from some of our community members it would be nice if there was a toddler age type play structure or something small, because the playground at that park is way to the north of the field. So they have a hard time if their older child is playing and their younger ones want to go play on a playground. So that was a comment that we fielded from the public, and look forward to making that one happen. Another large one that the parks team delivered is the permanent restroom at Thorpe Park. that thing's pretty awesome. So that was another big capital project to wrap up this year. I did want to touch on this it was grant funded, so not necessarily capital, but some of there were some cash contributions from Parks Department as well as a lot of our labor and equipment. This was the Buffalo Park Nate Avery Loop Trail and Accessibility Grant project that the Parks Department completed. So that entire 2-mile loop was redone with a newer, but new, I shouldn't even say new any longer because it's almost been used for 8 years, I think, surface material for the aggregate urban trail. 4 ADA parking spaces were added to the parking lot and 6 accessible universal workout stations within that 2-mile loop. Incredible project for that parks team to complete. Really pretty cool stuff. So that project is done. Switching gears, but staying within parks. And then this switches to some of those projects that are funded by that BBB rec capital, not necessarily the operating capital that the department has. So there's our first playground replacement. And if the commissioners recall, that's going to be 1 playground structure each year. And we've built that program out. The first one that the parks team and our certified playground inspectors identified is Ponderosa Trails Park. That's an image of what is upcoming. The equipment has been ordered, but I don't think it'll arrive till maybe July, I believe is what we heard from the vendor.
It'll be installed in July.
Yeah, so there's long lead time still on some of these larger items, but that'll be exciting to get that one done. To use our parks team's efforts best, it is one that it will 100% be from demo to install with a contractor. We will not be using any park staff labor on that one. At times we have in the past, but we would prefer just to use a contractor to allow our team to focus on maintenance. Some other BBB rec capital type projects listed there. There's the Heritage Square restroom, which was in this commission's top priorities for when we went through our prioritization exercise. That project is still in a very small infant, if not embryo type stage. Have been working with Flagstaff Downtown Business Alliance, as well as Hopi Trust and city staff on that project, and some more to come on that, but that is kind of where it is. It's still just maybe some words up on the screen. Another project that we were funded for is at Fort Park to perform some remediation. That's on the 8.5+ acres there, just north of Mogollon Street, where there is the sustainability offices, the parks greenhouse, at least corner to the urban farm, to Ruby Gardens and Urban Farm Incubator, and the future Indigenous Community Cultural Center. So what we've been doing there is we've got a contract that was actually just signed today to have a contractor come in and remove and haul away the perimeter fence that is around that property, 6 to 8 foot tall chain link fence. So that's going away. That'll open it up to the rest of the park. We've also done some mitigation efforts on the potable water and sewer system there on site, ensuring that everything's functioning, because we did identify last April a water leak, so shut off the water to one portion of that property. So continuing to work through some of those remediation efforts there to prepare that site for its future uses. And then the last bullet point on this slide is Ponderosa Park reconstruction. That project is also at this point not really on hold, but it's just in this waiting status. We need the city needs for stormwater improvements to go in and be in place before we can essentially reconstruct the park. So we're just kind of patiently waiting before that one kicks off into high gear mode for us. For elite parks, any question on parks from any commissioners?
How long out is it?
Good question, Commissioner Stackhouse. I know that in group and partners, that includes contractors, that includes design engineers in town and city staff that are working on that entire that entire drainage system. We've received, I think there's still at 30% drawings for this portion that connects Arroyo Seco to Killip Elementary and those detention basins. So it's still at a little bit greater than a concept stage. But so we need more of that developed and known exactly what that's gonna look like before then we can say, here we go.
So 30%. That means.
Not gonna happen this summer.
They
Yeah,
have to complete all those Spruce Avenue wash improvements
they
before
do
that, I mean.
upstream.
It's tentative for next summer, if everything is in
26.
place.
For summer of 25.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Curious.
yeah.
The Thorpe Park remediation, where is that exactly located? And what's the plan for that area? You said, once that's all done, and there's a new plan for that. Is that part of the Thorpe Park annex?
It is,
Okay.
yeah, that is, and you know, I appreciate you asking that question, because I think all of us are trying to drop the word annex.
Yeah,
You know, but and that's gonna take some time, and I did that on purpose, even on this slide, because it's Thorpe Park, that's
Yeah.
what it is, right? It's just 8.5 acres of it that aren't fully developed.
When is the next, so on that subject, when would be the next kind of point where the constituency that is unagreeable to the placement of the
The
skate
skate
park,
park and pump track.
when would be the next time? Because I see her every so often. She's now my neighbor of my mother-in-law. I see her quite a bit now.
Right.
who's that, Rose?
Yes. So I would love to be able to, you know, when she asks me, what would be the next time they could enter more opinion? into-
Right, commentary,
Yes,
yeah.
into a place where it would matter.
I think another great question. I thought about bringing the concept design that was adopted in December of 2022. Have thought about bringing that back to city council, but I don't think this summer. Maybe in the winter, maybe early spring, because we are just in this remediation stage. But as more activity possibly percolates even on the Indigenous Community Cultural Center, that's going to be a prime time to bring that concept drawing back to city council. Just to, again, update them, refresh their memories on where this is, because it does have a note on there saying that there'll be a re-examination of the location of the skate park and pump track.
Super.
Yep.
That's, I mean, that's,
Yeah.
like I said,
Yeah, so it could be maybe in the winter of 24 or spring of 25.
Because in the I don't remember in our 5-year plan, when the first amount of funds are allocated towards going to some phase of that.
27 or 28, if I remember right.
It's 24, 25, so July 1st. It's not a lot of money, but it's $200,000 that PROS has in the 5-year capital plan. As you know, we're calling it seed money, and whether if it's needed for more remediation on the property or if it's needed to seek a grant opportunity or any type of partnership with any contractor that wants to come into the Indigenous Community Cultural Center and start to rehab it. Or could it be used for some of the rehab in more of the office space location of that building? I think what would be a good idea is we'll get through winter and maybe in early summer, if we could even have a field trip type commission meeting to get all commissioners out there to that building to see it, feel it, then you know, I think then you'll have a great idea if you haven't been inside of it, what some of the struggles are gonna be to get that building to habitable
Oh, yeah.
kind of thing. Because that $200,000, it will just be a blip, right? But it's something to get something started. Then there's nothing from PROS until 9 years from now for the rest of that park's amenities, including for the Indigenous Community Cultural Center. Yeah,
That's what
yeah.
Talking about the Heritage Square restroom, are we still looking at like that standalone one, or is it still an option to restore the existing alleyway restrooms.
That's again, great commentary because that is some of what staff are talking about at a staff level. What is our best foot forward? Because is it this, there are two, just for all commissioners, memory and or notification for any new commissioners, there's two restrooms there in the alley. And so I've received some comments from the community on, gosh, how do you take away two and only add one? Because the standalone single is a single use one. Excellent comment on that, because that's not conducive to a growing community, right? Or growing needs of a public restroom. So, and then there's some issues with location of it. It needs to be on the property, just like if any of us were to go and develop something, you can't have cross utilities. So you can't be using, say, even electricity from another building or sewer or potable water. So it needs to be very close to the Hopi Trust building or physically on Heritage Square, because that is considered one parcel. And not outside of that necessarily. And then we're also evaluating other city-owned properties downtown. Are there other better locations for something like this? Or is it best to take a look at how do you rehab and remodel those existing two restrooms still to refresh them, but also the idea was we need to prohibit unwanted behaviors in them.
I was just thinking out loud, is it possible, maybe it's not, is to kind of gut those existing restrooms and actually put the standalone within that kind of alcove that would be created?
It could be possible to do that. And then I suppose then the discussion is, okay, then it's taking away two and adding one.
Well,
But it's possible,
ultimately,
yeah.
maybe that another one could be added.
Maybe,
2 or 3
yeah.
acres, space. in there
space,
for-
yeah. They're pretty small units. They're literally 6 foot by 8 foot. Pretty small.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, more, yeah. So that's why it's still just in this kind of unknown space at this time.
Yeah.
So I don't, this. I don't know what we have.
We have to provide a public restroom.
Yes,
There's nothing that says a city has to, no.
because I didn't even know this. And I live.
You don't hang out in the alley.
When you said these were in the alley and there were unwanted behaviors going on in there, and I'm going, why don't we do here? And eliminate your problem.
We might, well, it might eliminate the unwanted behaviors, but it might add some others, because then I think we would feel, yeah, you could add some others. And
San Francisco or Florida.
right, yeah, we have that on our hands, but then the other known public restrooms in kind of that downtown civic area would be, there's one at the visitor center, part of Amtrak. There is one at City Hall, but that's only gonna be open Monday through Friday. Library, they'll probably feel a large impact there. Other than that, then there are no other public restrooms. You would have to be eating or partaking in a.
Why aren't there any in Wheeler Park?
Because you have a library.
Yeah. It's also just a, 1 acre grassy park
And
area.
you don't want to sully it with a. I don't know, I was trying to think,
Right,
like
alternatives.
outside of where the kind of box stands, so to speak.
Yeah.
I just was. If to me, a restroom that's in a dark alley, I'm just going, I think somewhere else.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't have those unwanted behaviors if it's.
That's the idea with the Portland Loo, is then it's not tucked in an alley somewhere, it's sitting out. And it should prohibit those unwanted behaviors. Plus you can see, the first however many inches on the floor. So you can see if there's misuse going on, kind of thing. Yeah, they're a problem, they're a nuisance. But yeah. There is no requirement that a city provides public restrooms, but I think that we've seen.
I just wonder
Yeah.
how much those restrooms are really mitigating the alternate unwanted behavior.
Right, I
You
don't
what
know,
I mean, I could like.
right. Yeah, or,
A restaurant.
the
Just,
mall right there that does have some that are not part of a eating or drinking establishment,
I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah. Yeah,
it just sounds like a headache to me for parks.
it
And
is,
Just more of something that you have to clean and deal.
But it's also best practice, like
Is it, okay, then I don't.
the restrooms that you provide, especially in public places like a downtown. The theoretically, the less incidents you have of people finding an alley or a dark nook and cranny when they need to go.
Yeah.
And so.
yeah,
And think of, parents with young children that need a close by. So that's one reason that Wheeler Park is not ideal. Number one, the library is there.
Right.
But it's also a couple blocks away. So if you're watching movies on the square with your kids and all the other restaurants around all the other restrooms around are either in restaurants or perhaps the Old Town shops are closed, then you gotta check your little kid all the way down to Wheeler Park to use a public restroom. That's probably not gonna be successful. So,
Yeah.
it's a matter of preventing other problematic behaviors. And, I talk about best practice because I was recently visiting another community and they had restrooms every quarter mile or so along a long linear, very popular park. And I was super thankful for that. And I was just thinking that, wow, this is great because it's alleviating, making people go find their own place.
Gotcha. Good. Commissioner Martin, you have your hand up?
I did. I agree with you, Rebecca. The only thing I was going to add was that, generally our goal is not to reduce level of service. So this is something of a service in a public space. Our goal is to improve level of service, not take it away. So kind of goes against our vision or plan and stuff. So I think there's got to be some way where we can mitigate some of it in some manner. So we'll get there.
The previous slide is
yeah.
another project.
Nadia reloop,
No. Here's the first slide. Yeah,
this one,
yeah,
yeah,
just wanted to see. Well, okay, Baxter. No,
no, not
I
that
didn't
one,
I didn't have anything.
this one.
Where are all are the signs going in each park, the park kiosk signs or?
We
are they
did
just designated?
Greater Sort Park first, so there's, I believe, 6 signs have gone up with one, we're still waiting for the one for Josie. But yeah,
Okay. And the last question I had is the gate to the multi-purpose field. That's manual, that's not
it's
mechanical.
manual, yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
So,
cool. We're gonna jump then into recreation, so some of recreation's operating capital. One of the items that's a project completed were noise reducing walls inside the dining space at Josie Montoya. There's a picture of them. And so far, I believe it's been wonderful. And if you had not been in there, it could get really echoey very fast. So this really helps with that because there's easily anywhere from 35 to 60 people per day or during the Monday through Friday work week enjoying the congregate meal service there. So kind of a cool improvement to do. Here at the Aquaplex, pretty soon during the annual maintenance closure, the fitness flooring will be replaced upstairs. There's some rolls of fitness flooring there. And then this is active. So there we go. Some future ones that I know Tyrone and his coworkers are working on would be a youth esports system at Hal Jensen Recreation Center. So working through some of those details, and then over at J Lively at the ice rink, they purchased another skate sharpener. So those were some of the items that our recreation team could do with their operating capital. Recreation's operating capital is significantly less than parks, just as you're taking a look at some of these projects. We wish it was larger. I'm sure we could buy more things to buy. Some other items that have been replaced that I didn't feel the need to get images of have been some of our fitness equipment. We have kind of a trapping, if you will, at each of the rec centers with fitness areas where we replace aged equipment throughout each year. And so big process. I'm not going to that screen yet. Any questions on recreation and what we've got going on? So this kind of doubles even as our next agenda item, because it's obviously a large capital project. These are the sport courts at Bushmaster Park. And that's also our next agenda item. So, but we can always circle back to this, 'cause that's just an image of it, because we can talk more in depth on that on the next agenda item. But that's a $900,000 plus capital project there, redoing basketball courts, tennis courts, and pickleball courts. Huge project going on. And then one of our last capital project to discuss is West Side Park. And for any newer commissioners that don't know what West Side Park is, that will be one of our newest or our newest park to deliver in quite some time. So on the image on the left there, shaded in green, are the actual it's undeveloped land, city owned, identified zone public facility. So for West Side Park, it is off Highland Mesa, Woodlands Village Boulevard, and I-40 right there. And then the image on the right, I wanted to show, just to dive into this one a little bit, is from off Woodlands Village Boulevard, because the park, and right behind that black pickup truck is where then is this land. The park's got some serious contours that go up toward Highland Mesa. So this will be an interesting one to design and perform some outreach on. So the contract for the design services has been completed. So we've got that going, so we can start talking about this. And then a piece of it is public community outreach, a little bit different than, say, greater public outreach, where there's a large neighborhood. The Boulder Point area is adjacent to this. And then just underneath I-40, where the urban trail system connects to University Heights. So two rather large residential neighborhoods would be the closest nexus to this park. So we do want to perform some community outreach to those neighborhoods to find out, within reason, what does the community want in those as amenities in this park. For clarity, this isn't an opportunity for the community to say we want a baseball field or this. It's a neighborhood park. And that's the classification of it. So it'll have some of those standard features. It'll have a playground structure. It'll probably have a ramada for rentals and some picnic tables, barbecue grills. But what it has beyond that, not 100% certain, especially with those contours. And I think it's a neat opportunity to also do something to work with those contours. So we're not just cutting into into Mother Earth and creating some type of a park. So I think this will be a really cool one to figure out with the design team and to perform that outreach. So looking forward to that. That, just for commissioners' knowledge, that funding is split over 2 fiscal years, where right now, this fiscal year, there's roughly about 20% of the funds available to perform the design contract, perform the outreach, maybe do a little bit of clear and grub if it's needed, or other work on the construction drawings. Within next fiscal year, this upcoming July, for the remaining balance of it to actually develop and deliver the park itself.
Parking.
There is no parking at all, and that'll be something that'll be interesting to discuss during this design phase and with the community, because a neighborhood park maybe isn't supposed to have parking. You're supposed to be able to walk or ride your bike from your neighborhood, right? I know, it'll be interesting to have. You certainly won't be able to have parking down here low where that black pickup truck is.
I guess I was just gonna say it's a good thing Staples is that busy.
Maybe, yeah.
Okay, good enough.
But if you think of that neighborhood park near you, and we have a mixture of that in our current park system, so this could maybe a difficult message to deliver to the community, because typically a neighborhood park should not have parking, and we have examples of it all over
I'm just
in the
looking at
city.
that on the hill and with all
Yeah.
the people that look to go sledding.
Yep.
I just.
Yeah, because Ponderosa Trails does.
Does
And-
not,
and that-
no.
And that's one of those things where I'm like, I mean, not
Yeah.
that you have the option to park,
Right.
I'm just saying, okay, how.
What will this look like?
how do we-
Yeah,
How do we mitigate the Phoenicians
Mhm.
sledding in this park and parking in Staples and upsetting your pie? or
Yeah,
whatever.
exactly. Yeah. Yep.
The new vet clinic.
Yeah. So yeah, it'll be interesting. I think right now the community definitely uses the space as a dog park. From what I can tell, I saw some imagery of some snowshoeing going on in the area, so
Is it
when you
dog
talk
park
about that,
in the, like, is that something
It
that
could
could be included in a community?
it could, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, especially if that's what the community wanted there.
I mean, it's obviously the best use of this, or current use, I guess.
Yeah. So that'll be a fun one. It'll be real interesting. I think the parking lot, they're expensive to build for starters, and we only have so much money. So that'll be an interesting exercise to go through with the community, because here's how much money we have. Here are the types of amenities that are included in a neighborhood classification park. Do you really want to spend 100,000 of it on parking spaces?
I
Probably.
guess I'm just thinking like like the other neighborhood parks that you mentioned are almost completely surrounded by neighborhoods,
Mhm.
whereas this
Has commercial on the
is
side.
half commercial.
Yeah, and then the rest residential.
I mean, I would, if I owned your pie, I wouldn't care, because that would mean more people would come there and maybe buy a pizza. But I'm just thinking of the parking and the limited amount of parking that's over there. Is all that was.
Yeah,
Not trying to create a problem.
No,
Trying to
no.
avoid.
yeah.
Just thinking of the topography though, people that are accessing this park are gonna naturally come off of Highlands Mesa. This is a steep hill,
Yeah, it is.
so it would not be ideal for anyone wanting to get to the park easily to try to park by Staples or My Pie and walk up this hill.
They're gonna access it here, I think, there's an urban trail that already goes through the property, and here's Highland Mesa Road.
So I think what they're probably gonna do is on-street parking, but it's further away where that's available. It's a couple of blocks away.
Is there a way that you could curtail people from entering the park from that direction?
Maybe, there's a retaining wall.
You need to keep people out. I mean, if they want to visit Staples and then walk up that super steep hillside and visit the park, then why not? But
That's.
I don't think it'll be a famous last words possibly, but
Commissioner Martin?
I was just looking at it on Google Maps. Left of that truck in that whole area, there's a huge retaining wall. And obviously there's a large parking lot for Staples. I agree with you, Rebecca. I don't think that's going to be an issue. We don't usually have in most parks an issue with people and parking in regional parks. Usually. I can only think of one park, and that's because of what's there. I don't think there's anything that's going to be at this particular park that is going to cause people to flock to it. We'll see when it's designed, but I just don't think it's going to be an issue.
that's the idea of it being a neighborhood park, is it serves the immediate neighborhood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're right, Commissioner Martin, toward I-40, there's a retaining wall there to retain a lot of that dirt. And so, yeah, uncertain, and that's why I on purpose grabbed this photo of while the vet clinic was under construction, so that you could see that, depending on what the amenities are in this space, I don't know if any of this dirt will need to be retained too. We just don't know yet.
Plus, we have access issues because we don't have the property right up
Correct.
to the right of way line.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, yeah. Correct. That is it for item numbers 6.
very good. Oh, we still have a couple questions. Commissioner Martin?
I forgot, I don't remember if you mentioned it, Amy. Where is the West Side Park at? I guess it's just, you guys are still doing outreach with the HOA there, or where are we at?
So the contract for the design services has been placed under contract, so that can now begin. And included in that is the community outreach to perform to the neighborhood, definitely Boulder Point neighborhood, if not also University Heights. We have not determined that yet. So we can now move with actually starting that outreach, starting some of the design features. Do need to circle back with the HOA of Boulder Point to discuss access off Highland Mesa Road, because we do need access to the city's parcel. So those conversations can start to percolate back up, since they've been on pause here for 3 to 4 years.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Good question. Thank you. Any other questions on agenda item number 6?
Nothing. We're gonna stay on this.
Let's just stay on this then. An update on the sport courts at Bushmaster.
So update, that image there on your screen is from our concept submittal to the city's design review process, of which were approved. And so now it's on to construction drawings. So we're through design review and working through some of those tweaks on the construction drawings right now. We still meet bi-weekly with the design consultant and city staff. Excuse me. And, a couple things that I know that have changed that I can articulate from this image, with the tan and turquoise basketball court, and where you see these trees like up on the court and some of the picnic eating areas. The grades there will not work, so that will not be there, and that is okay. I knew, that was gonna be expensive, and it looks like a nice bell and whistle on this imagery, but the grades don't support it. So that will not be there, but the basketball court still exists, or a sport court in that location. So that change has occurred. We still have that central spine in between all the courts. And since this concept plan has gone through and been approved, we also have a really neat partnership with Beautification Arts and Sciences on the landscaping portion of this project, where they have $100,000 to provide for this project, which that's incredible. Because again, our promise to the community is a 1-for-1 at the very least on tree replacement. So any tree that needs to go away, a new one will be planted. If we may be faced with a circumstance with a really large tree that needs to go away, and if that's the case, we talked about that maybe that's greater than a 1 tree that replaces that when you're taking away a large caliper sized tree, versus many of these trees that need to be removed with this project are very small, and some of them not healthy either. But if there's a large one, I think staff will look at that differently and want to replace that with greater than just a 1, just as a FYI. It feels like being a good steward of the space. Also different than this image is a lot of staff really like that turquoise and tan color scheme. So I think we're going to do all turquoise and tan color scheme throughout the whole thing. Might be more turquoise than tan, and it'll just depend on what the sport court type is. That way we've got one consistent color theme at the park for repairs and replacement when the time comes. For city council purposes, I did ask the design services to provide this image here, so I could easily state, here's the tennis, here's the pickleball, here's the basketball. But again, I think that turquoise and tan color scheme, and you'll probably see more turquoise than tan on that too. which I think will be kind of cool.
So the pickleball courts and tennis courts would all reflect the same color.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, yep.
Commissioner Martin?
Hi, is there lighting on the pickleball courts? I see that there is on the basketball and tennis.
There's lighting on all sport courts, Commissioner Martin, including today.
Okay, thanks. I knew there was currently, I just didn't know, it just doesn't show it in the image, so I was curious. So, thank you.
All lighting. And again, that lighting ends every day of the week at 9 p.m. through that city code process and change that the division went through in November and December. So the project's moving along well. We're trying hard to have full construction documents in April, so in a few short weeks. Right now, we've got raw construction pricing from the identified constructing partner on it, General Acrylics. But as those construction drawings take shape, we'll be able to get more exact pricing. And again, the hope and idea is to have temporary construction fencing up in May and start constructing these items during Flagstaff's construction season. And just like any other concrete project, there would be a need for 30+ days for the concrete slabs to cure before the epoxy coat painting can be applied to it. So that's why we really want to be working May through easily through August on that. Probably, hopefully September is the cure month period, and then paint these items and hopefully open them up. It's going to impact our user groups season at this location this summer, but that was going to happen no matter what. So I do think as we start to get closer to an actual construction start date, some outreach to our athletic user groups is going to happen. So to the Flagstaff Tennis Association, to the Flagstaff Pickleball Association. There is no association that we're aware of with basketball, so certainly some signage, banners, and a lot of communication will need to go out to inform the public of that disturbance in that area, plus they won't be able to go play basketball during that time. So, part of that I think would be offering those alternate locations on where to go enjoy some of these sports. All this is under construction.
Well, this doesn't show it, but aren't the tennis courts, those are gonna be dual striped for pickleball as well, right?
Yep, they will. They will be dual striped, so will the basketball courts, but they will not have, once these are constructed, the portable nets will not be sitting out there and available for use. It'll only be permitted for use through a actual permit applied through our events and athletics.
So if someone wanted to rent those to do a tournament or something like that.
Correct, yes. Yeah. You'll notice, there's not a fence around the basketball court. That's done on purpose, so we can open it up. Unlike the capital project Parks Perform, there's not a road nearby for that stray ball. That opens that up. Right now, there's a 12-foot tall fence around the thing. There's gotta be a fence around tennis courts, so there still would be, I believe it's a 10-foot fence there. And then going with as open and limited fencing around the pickleball courts, since a part of that athletic is for socialization and openness of access to that.
Looks like you just have backstops at the basketball courts, is that?
That's with the grades there. And again, that picnic area is not happening.
Right.
So that's not there. On the north side of the basketball courts, the south side of the pickleball courts, there is an 8-foot fence there, just so that way pickleballs aren't.
I thought I was seeing a separate
There's
fence, right?
grades different.
A separate fence right behind the basketball courts, right
Yeah,
behind the basketball field, so.
and with those grade issues on site, again, that whole picnic area is eliminated and yeah. And working through any of those challenges, those are part of those bi-weekly meetings with the design consultants, is to figure some of that out. Yeah,
Looking good.
any questions on sport courts at Bushmaster Park? Again, hoping to be constructing this summer. Whoop, whoop.
Great, awesome. I'm sure the community is happy to hear that.
I hope so.
Have you got any more negative comments from the surrounding neighborhood, or
Haven't,
pretty quiet?
has not been like a public opportunity for that. There was recently a public records request on wanting to see the construction documents, but they haven't been created. So I know that our city clerk's office dealt with that request.
Fresh my memory, there are pickleball courts there now, or they're not.
There's currently 2 tennis courts, 2 basketball courts, dual striped for 8 pickleball courts on site right now, under lights.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So total number of courts, permanent and potential for the setup or dual striped. If the tournament was being held there and then we're utilizing all the courts, how many courts total there'd be?
With it, so there'll be 8 permanent pickleball, 2 permanent tennis, 2 permanent basketball. If you apply for a permit for, let's say, tournament pickleball play, you could have access to 16 courts with the dual stripe.
Wow.
Yeah. Which was all along the request of the commission when a handful of years ago when working through those items.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we can move on if there's no further questions regarding Bushmaster Park. Anybody? Great, thank you, Amy. That was fun to see. So we'll move on to agenda item 8, FY 24 and 25 initial budgets funded.
So that is hard to say. So we're going through our budget process now. Our division received some of the initial information on Friday, March 8th, I think was the date. So a handful of exciting items, are a lot of our typical items for parks, recreation, open space and events that are funded one time. So meaning just each fiscal year is moving toward, some of them are moving toward ongoing for us, which is great. Some of those items include like our utility costs at our 4 recreation centers, and a handful of other items. And then also within our parks department, some other items, some remain in that one-time fund balance, which is, and that's okay, we get that. But again, a few of them were moved to ongoing. It was really incredible to experience that with our budget team. So that was pretty neat. Some other items that are coming forward, we did submit a budget request for a 1-acre expansion at the Citizen Cemetery that is not being funded, but that's okay. And we're confident with that. We wanted to bring that forward just to start that conversation. So certainly next year through our budget process, we're going to submit for that again, because eventually that is going to be a need, whether if it's need. Right now, it's not a severe need. And next year, it may not even be a medium need, but we'll be able to gauge that depending on how much space gets utilized at the cemetery. So that was not funded. Items that were funded, $1.5 million for Aquaplex resiting project, huge. That was big to receive that. So that will be pretty exciting. Again, hoping that all that stays intact as we go through our budget process.
Should be siding.
Yeah, what does that mean?
Skin on the outside.
Doing new siding.
I got
Yep, the exterior siding, yep, is unfortunately not in the best shape. So large capital project to protect this asset, which is huge. Some other items that were funded, some of them are some of our annual ones that are asked of in parks with our smart irrigation system and the cloud-based data that's needed for that. We've had some large expenditures in parks with data plans for tablets, phones, you name it, to use a lot of this online product that we have now. So that's being funded, again, annually is the organic herbicide and fertilizer, that's being funded. Our contracted personnel, so for temporary assistance, seasonal. Some items with our small tool budgets, because, you know, Gino and I laughed the other day, used to be able to go get like a 100-foot tape measure for $20. Well, now it's $60 kind of thing. So all those small tools for our parks department have drastically increased. Uniforms, also just a typical increase. So pretty exciting on that. Again, in recreation, some of the items funded were the utility increases at our 4 recreation centers, the custodial contract for here at the Aquaplex. That was also moved from one-time funding to ongoing, so meaning that Tyrone and his team don't need to keep asking for that year after year. That's a huge improvement. And then another unique one, like the 1.5 million for the Aquaplex exterior siding, was also $75,000 to demo and prepare and or repurpose the sitting areas along Butler Avenue that are a nuisance area that the parks team maintains. That also have bus stops at either location. So starting to clean up those areas and prepare them. So we're not quite sure how they'll interact with the Butler Avenue widening project just yet. Yeah.
See, Commissioner Martin has his hand up. You want to ask a question?
I did. Which building siding is getting redone?
The Aquaplex.
Oh, that's great. It needs it. Awesome. That was my question. Thank you.
And that was a
1.5 million.
or just the actual.
Yes, I know.
Wow.
Yeah. Hey, if we don't spend it all, then we can get money back. But we'll see.
Are you doing a similar siding or is it going to be a change of?
What's up there now is the cementitious board. So it's this brown siding for those that are here that you can see right outside the window. With a proper substrate behind it. So we evaluated a bunch of things, including put a product be placed on top. There's also some battens, I believe, every like 18 inches. We have investigated a lot. I think what's right now proposed to go up is not cementitious board, but rather metal siding. With the hope that it would last a lot longer than this did, because this building was delivered, I believe, in 2007, 2008.
I think they even have, it's kind of like a Trex type thing.
There's a lot of different products out there. So hoping to find a product that will last longer than the current product did.
Yeah. Cement board is supposed to last.
It is supposed to last a long time. But it's got some severe cracking in it. There's also some on the western wall here with the sun, some severe fading, which may have contributed to some cracking on it too, which could be with our temperature swings.
Yeah.
Who knows? So yeah, I definitely want to find something that's right for our climate, plus lasts a long time. Those are some of the highlights from our initial budget items for next fiscal year.
So how does that work? You just put together a list and take that in front of council and they have to say yes or no?
Oh, you mean, what are the next steps? Or how did we get to where we are?
How do you get to where you are?
You know,
A synopsis.
of how it works.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's again, some of those expenses were their ongoing daily operational needs, especially when you think of utilities for rec centers, small tools, devices, you name it, for parks, including contracted personnel. So those are just annual requests that our division makes of the city's budget team. So the city has a budget team and are required to do so with certain threshold dates. And then the new ones, like one-off projects like the Aquaplex siting, that's based on need. We went through an evaluation process with facility maintenance. We were aware that this needed to be replaced. There were some funds identified for it, not enough. And so through that discovery process, then decided, well, let's just do a full budget capital request of the budget team to perform the project. And again, it was awarded. And then, something also like the cemetery expansion, again, we know that it's coming soon. We'll need it. So that's staff putting together that request and making the request, the budget team. I mean, budget team is reviewing, gosh, dozens and hundreds of requests from all city departments, including personnel and non-personnel type items. And it's a lengthy 3-week process for our budget team to go through all these requests and identify out of the funds that the city has, what can they actually fund?
When before you submit it, do you know how much you could be awarded, or is it just,
You don't know.
you have no idea?
You have no idea.
So the budget team has 2+ weeks of hearings with every division. So we went in and made our request, and we give them our priorities. And Amy, I don't know if you want to talk about the reorganization request that we had. That was our top priority this year. And then they take all of that from across the city, and they know what funds are available and whether it's one time or ongoing that's available. And they do, so it's the budget team. I'll get to that in a second. It's a cross-departmental team made up of city staff, including the city manager's office, human resources, of course, finance and budget, public works, sustainability. So it's a economic vitality. It's an across the city team that's put together, and it's kind of put together by the city manager and the finance staff together. They also set out their goals at the beginning of the entire process so that we're aware of what their priorities are. And for the last few years, it's been on taking care of employees. And so that's really their top focus, is those priorities that they set out for us to understand as we're making our requests. And this year it was very clear it's taking care of existing employees. So we try to take that into consideration as we're putting together our package and our strategies and our priorities for them to understand. Sometimes there are just things you still have to at least ask for, even if it's just to put it on the radar so that they're aware that this is a need, and maybe it'll have to come back for a couple more years before it eventually gets funded. The cemetery expansion is one of those that we needed to get it on the radar. We're not in dire straits yet. But we probably will definitely need that in 2-3 years. And we need it to be operational in that time frame. That's not just the construction of it. So it's having those conversations with them, and then they have to have those conversations with everyone else in the city, all the other divisions, and then they work out what they can based on their goals and priorities and council goals and priorities, and then try to get each division their goals and priorities as well.
Does take care of our existing staff, is that make it so that everybody has competitive pay so that you guys are a decent place to work? Is that
right? So market pay is something that the city has been, or market-based pay is something that the city's been working on for the last several years, is trying to bring as many positions as possible within a market range, especially for those positions that we're having trouble recruiting, or that just keep turning over. Our parks maintenance worker position is one of those that we recruit and we hire, and sometimes they stay. Most of the time they get something better, perhaps elsewhere. A lot of the times they don't even accept the offers. So that's a good example of a position that's been a struggle, and we're trying to get, we're trying to review the market for that kind of worker around the area with like cities, but there are positions like that across the city. So market-based pay is a priority. So is pay for performance. So last year we implemented a new evaluation process that is pay for performance, where employees can get a raise anywhere from 0% up to 4% based on their performance. So those were both priorities of the budget team going into this year.
No, good questions. And as Rebecca stated, so one of our top priorities is as pros division. So all parks, recreation, open space and events, as we continue to figure out what the heck this giant arm of the city is. We made some internal changes where our athletics department, so those athletics that we provide to the community, adult softball, adult volleyball, grass volleyball, basketball and hockey, was under recreation. And it was one when Tyrone was wearing multiple hats at one point in time for us here at the city. And when he was a rec supervisor of a rec center, plus also running all athletics. And that included all the tournaments that are on our ball fields that come up here, soccer tournaments, you name it. So we quickly realized that maybe that was better with our events and marketing team, because events permits roughly 1,200 events on city-owned property, and that's what these athletics are too, in a way, especially the tournaments. So we moved athletics underneath events and marketing. So the infamous E on the end. So part of continuing the build out of this division included, we had our top priority was what the city calls a reclassification. We want that position to be a manager position. So similar to our parks manager and our recreation manager. Through this budget process, it was not initially funded, but we did get the opportunity to see if there was a way that our division could self-fund it. So we quickly regrouped, finding out that it was not funded through the budget process, and figured out where that funding can come from. So that's within our division's existing funds, and suggested it, and that will be approved. So that's huge, because we're continuing to build out this entire division, and we need appropriate roles to honestly to fill that out. So that was it was quick thinking with all of staff a lot of staff that participate in this meeting, and we got it accomplished, because that was our top priority, because we do need to continue to build out this division big time on that. I think a position in the future that the commission could expect is maybe some type of business analyst. We've got rec centers, we've got cost centers, we have a cemetery, we've got revenue opportunities, Ramada rentals. We need to know the data, who's using our spaces, where, when, why, kind of thing. So that could be a future position that we may ask for, and that would go through this budget process and this annual process for the city. But this was, our next step. The last time I believe we did a reorganization was maybe, or changes to our org chart, was 2 years ago, I think. So we're just chewing off little pieces while we can to continue to build the entire division for the organization, and then in turn what it provides to the community is huge. A few other kind of interesting items I think for the commission to know that was budgeted would be to put on, it is budgeted one time, but to put on a 4th of July signature event. So that was funded. It was funded with tourism dollars, who are also part of the BBB tax, along with Parks and Recreation. And I think a lot of the work will be happening within pros, so within events and marketing. But the funding source is coming from another city partner on that. So that was funded, so we're gonna be jumping in here soon to some 4th of July planning on that. And I think we can bring that as we get closer to it, have that be an agenda item for the commission, just to be aware of what that event will be. Yeah. Those are some of the big highlight items, I believe, from our budget process.
On cemetery, Is it already part land that's part of the cemetery, or is this land you have to?
So the cemetery is about 36 acres in size, not all of it developed, for whether if it's for regular interment services, so skits, or, for like columbariums to add. That's a real small, easy space to add. So what we had requested was for $200,000 to add or develop an additional acre. So that would be the grading activity, irrigation and turf. Yeah. And then also to add it into our cemetery software as available plots.
Do you do that yourself, or do you have to hire a consultant to do that?
For the software,
Just to develop like what the layout of the cemetery is as far as.
we've got all of that. Yeah. 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 So yeah, that was our bidding process.
Thanks for presenting that. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to add before we move on? Or is it, I don't know if we're done with that topic or. I guess like that. See any hands up?
Share the
Next one is city council liaison report, but I don't believe we have council member Harris with us, correct? Oh. From that, reports, monthly highlights of Parks and Recreation, open space and events. Again, I didn't see a link to that, so.
Seriously?
Hmm.
You're right.
Let me see if I can pull that up and then to share it at least.
Let's go over that.
So that would have been our February report. Let's see.
Who was supposed to review this agenda last week? What was I doing?
I wasn't here, that's what Rebecca is referencing.
The spring break, right?
Okay, here's the February monthly report. Look at that, no way, signage. So the front page talks about how we took our largest regional park and started to upgrade a lot of the kiosk signage, which is really neat. One of our park supervisors, Sean Mulaney, accepted the challenge, and he's been literally knocking it out of the park, so it's kind of cool.
Unintended.
Never.
Are those signs all self-performed? As far as design and implementation?
It's with an artesian metal service. I mean, the Malachi rock structures are there.
Yeah.
So we're existing
Oh, okay.
signage there. And then Sean worked with one of our local metal shop
Okay,
locations to create the sign, including the full design of it and everything.
I didn't know the stonework was already there.
It is.
Okay.
And that some of that I think folks are noticing, so it starts to highlight the stonework that was existing, which is kind of cool.
Yeah,
We also experienced a large accumulation storm in February. So this was highlighting, obviously, the amazing job that the parks team does. We also had events and marketing out shoveling. And recreation helped big time with the 4 recreation centers. So that was exceptionally fun, that large multi-day storm for everybody. The picture there is not of city equipment, and that's one of the alleys adjacent to the sweet shop as it heads toward Flag Brew. So the city is doing a pilot contract with a contractor to honestly perform a concierge type service in a few select alleys where they're cleaning this thing completely. Because normally parks would come through with a plow truck and just do that initial pass. So it's gonna get like a 7-foot clearing of snow. So there's still snow on the sides. So this contractor is literally clearing every bit of snow out of these select alleys. And Gino is managing that contract. So it's only during a snow event. And then the management of that is occurring with parks. It's a pilot project that the city is working on. This was the first season of it. I think the contractor was mobilized 3 times.
Yep.
3 different snow events. Did they do anything in this last snow event last week?
Yeah.
They did, yeah, so maybe 4-ish times. Yeah. You know, and what's unique is because Parks is also at Heritage Square, getting all the snow off there, so we're really working in tandem with this contractor, and then Streets is coming by and plowing Aspen Avenue and some of the other streets there. It takes a lot of work just to organize everything, and eventually snow storage becomes a problem downtown, and then it's hauled out of there. So this contractor is removing every bit of snow and hauling it out. Big undertaking for that contractor.
How's it going?
It's
It's
going
going well,
well,
yeah.
for all things considered. It was a good trial, that multi-day event we had with the big accumulation, but I think the businesses have been happy, and the contractor's been receptive and easy to work with from our end, from managing that contract as well. So
We're just still maintaining, like you said, Heritage Square,
Oh, yeah.
all the funds, the funds.
Oh, yeah.
sure, we still plow through the alleys, just in addition to that initial pass that we
Yeah.
do in those downtown alleys.
They're coming and grabbing the rest, basically.
This was also a budget request this year to continue this service into next year if the city was interested in that. And it did get funded at
Partially.
100,000 for a pilot project for
Yeah.
next year.
Yeah. And they may have reduced that a little bit based on what I was just looking at. So we'll have to take a look at that. Yeah.
Are you looking at a spreadsheet?
Yeah,
Can I ask?
of course.
Is it just for the businesses? Like, is it so that it's easier to just walk around downtown after it's like, what's,
What's the point of it?
yeah, because if you guys are already passing through, why do we need a contractor to like clear all of it the whole time?
So some of these alleys are heavily activated in the fall, summer, and spring. These are the alleys that are essentially closed to vehicular activity, and there's eating
Yeah.
available, things like that. So, you know, the feedback the city received is these are activated alleys, more pedestrian corridors than anything. So if you can clear them completely of snow versus just that 7-foot wide pass.
Okay. That makes
Yeah,
I mean, I guess what he's asking is, as a private business owner, if I own this place, why is it not the private business owner's responsibility to remove?
in the alley,
Is that what-
because it's not a sidewalk,
But
it
that's,
is a road.
is that part of the road?
It's, an alley is a road, yes.
But then. I
Yeah,
was trying to clarify Austin's question, because I get where he's going with it.
like a store.
Why is it the city's responsibility to deal with a private park?
Well, that parking lot there off LaRue is not private.
Oh, it's not.
That is a city
It is
parking
city-
lot,
oh,
yes.
okay.
Yeah, and so Parks plows that parking lot. Those are almost some of the only ADA parking spaces in downtown right there.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's not a private parking lot. And then the alley network itself are essentially roads.
Right.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
That makes.
The
I was-
funding for that, just to clarify, it is approved at 100,000, just that 50,000 is offsetting it from tourism.
gotcha, okay. Gotcha,
As long as it's a pilot project, that's very important.
yeah,
So like the tourism department is the one who's pushing it.
In other words, BVB funds from tourism are helping to fund this service.
Okay.
yeah.
Why is it important it's a pilot project? What does that have to do with it?
I think it's setting the expectation that we're gonna keep checking out how this works before we fund it ongoing.
Because once they fund it ongoing, then it becomes almost like.
Becomes an expected
Yeah.
service.
Yeah.
Thank you, Barry. On Beaver and Douglas for the bike.
We tried a different image this time for our trail counts. So would love any feedback from commissioners on it. So took the data the imagery that's available from the trail count software and basically just made our own chart out of it. So if this is better and easier to read, by all means, give that feedback versus the more pie chart you would normally. see, so this has the counts going in 500 increments going up, and then the locations horizontally across. Still shows some of the same, data that we see where we know Buffalo Park Loop, Mars Hill, and Sinclair Wash and Route 66 are heavily used. Go ahead, Commissioner Martin.
I like the graph, although it could use some units on the left-hand side. You can kind of tell, is that passives, or are you guys guessing at people? What are you saying that thousands of, what is that?
Many people walked or rode their bike by in the month of January.
That would be a great unit.
Okay. Sure.
But otherwise, it looks really good.
See, what I'm assuming is that some of us with very, very short-term memory even remember the graph.
I was just thinking that.
So in that case, I love that graph. I think
Right.
that graph is amazing.
I think that over the pie chart.
Yeah, I think it's a little easier to read, and here's the commentary along with it, which may help describe what the numbers are going up on the left. So, just for the month of January, just Route 66 trail alone, and that is a commuter trail for our community. There was over 4,500 travelers on it. That's just wild. So that's east and westbound foots. It's a long stretch there. And then Sinclair Wash provided a lot of leisure recreation through that riparian area with almost 1,900 travelers in the month of January. And so what we did do, this is actually a budget item I neglected to bring up. We continue to, some of the reasoning behind even wanting to count how many individuals use this existing trail system is to demonstrate to the organization, we've got this amazing trail system and we hardly have any funding to maintain it properly, perform large repairs. There is no fund balance to perform repair and replacement of some of the hard surface trail segments, the commuter segments. There's 4,500 people cruising up and down the Route 66 version. So what will be changing for us this budget season is PROS was directly asked, if there was money available from engineering, from the transportation tax for repair and replacement of the urban trail system, would you essentially be the stewards and project managers of it? And we said, heck yes.
That's what my question was gonna be, is for funding through other avenues, through transportation, working with markets and that.
Exactly. Yep. So that, all this has been in the works the whole time, where we wanted to demonstrate here is how well loved this trail system is. If you provide funding, we will gladly basically PM a project on it and get some of this replaced. So we were directly asked that. We said yes. And so we will see some funding on that. There's minor amounts of funding this fiscal year and a larger chunk next fiscal year to actually perform some repair and maintenance, which is huge. That'll be awesome.
Be great.
Yep. Yeah. So that is, we also like to just know, obviously, I think it's a great story that we're telling of how many people use our trail system, but a lot of that has been the backbone to demonstrate that we do need a replacement program for it.
Commissioner Martin?
I just wanted to say that was awesome, and I'm glad that you guys are doing the work. Thank you.
Cruising through to the recreation slides, the Aquaplex hosted a beach pool party in the month of February. It was a one-day event, not even the whole day, but a select time. They had 70 participants who got to have a beach pool party, so that was pretty cool. In some of our other recreation centers, we highlighted some of the, in celebration of Black History Month, Hal Jensen Recreation Center hosted a dinner and a movie, and also got to enjoy, the guests there got to enjoy the movie The Butler and enjoy some collard greens, okra, macaroni and cheese and cornbread to highlight some Black ethnic cuisine. Hal Jensen also hosted a blood drive toward the end of the month, which is a repeat event that can occur at that location. So it's always super duper popular. So that was cool to see that still going on. And then in cruising over to open space commission, and we had our collaborative commissions meeting last month, but they continue to prepare and review the Observatory Mesa Trail Plan. And I think we're talking about it more in depth next week at the Open Space Commission meeting. So some information on that is in here. There, that's a picture of an open space full moon hike in January. I guess it got hit with a snowstorm. But it was featured by the NEU Lumberjack publications. That was pretty neat. And you can click on that photo and it'll take you to the publication on that. Oh, look at that. And we welcomed aboard Miss Sarah Holditch over here. She is now was with the open space section and is now with events and marketing as the events and marketing coordinator. So this was some information on Sarah and her sweet pup there. Came on over to the events and marketing side. And then I know events and marketing has been doing their call for musicians for concerts in the park series that occurs in June and July for us. And then there was some information regarding spring volleyball that kicked off in the month of February.
Have you signed up for any concerts in the park yet for a fall?
I think so. How many musicians have applied for concerts in the park? 40. 40?
Wow.
Is that a lot?
It's down from last year, but yeah,
Down from what was last year?
usually get like 85.
How do you select them out of all that?
You pick what music we'd like to listen to. Sit down usually with other staff and then rank them on some other things, and then it gets down to just availability of the bid. Because is there 9 opportunities? There's 9.
How many of you guys collaborating with Coconino on just one?
They haven't reached out this year.
They haven't reached out.
Hopefully 2.
Yeah, I know they wanted, I thought they wanted to do the one out east. But something is wrong with the location in Kachina. Like we brought it up, but I forget there was an issue there for some. I think it was parking actually.
Is that
It could be.
I know that I'm pretty sure they want to do the one out east. All proud of that meeting's next week. So.
Does that include the concerts that are held in Heritage Square?
No.
First Fridays.
That's a separate, those are special event permits.
Yeah.
The downtown.
I did just email out to you all the report, so you should have that in your inboxes. It will also be linked eventually on the agenda for the public and anyone, and for you guys to come back and answer later if you'd like. The minutes are also now live linked. We'll still include that on the April agenda though.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Thanks for having me, and move on to information items to and from commissioners and staff. I don't have anything.
Do you want to talk about staffing changes, maybe? Like Corinne's no longer here, so don't look for emails.
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
Mistake earlier, I said.
Yes, we've had a few staffing changes. One would be that one of our administrative specialists, Corinne Brown, is moved on to a new adventure. So we'll start receiving some emails as commissioners from Kathy Getchow. So if you see an email from her, that she is going to be our main communication liaison in between the commission meeting months on that. And then we'll be and then Sarah's kindly working on doing our meeting minute notes for us, even though she's our events and marketing coordinator. So as you can tell, it's kind of a team effort on this. And I know we've been performing a recruitment in recreation we had a coordinator position that was vacant at Josie. So I know Tyrone and the team have been working on that. we're constantly in recruitment, I think, for park maintenance workers. In parks, we do need to perform a recruitment for an athletics coordinator. So Haley will be working on that soon. And we thought about, this kind of ties into maybe agenda items for the next meeting. We wanted to introduce to the commission the park ranger, if that would be of interest. We didn't want to do that for this meeting, but maybe for the April one, if that's a agreeable agenda item, similar to how we did the recreation supervisors. So that way, the individual can come in, introduce themselves, and then just start to talk about kind of the, maybe even, you know, the in general scope of the park ranger role, but also what they've seen the last handful of months. They were just onboarded toward the end of October, so they've really only seen a winter season, so go easy on them.
Get a kick out of his accent.
So we thought about that as an agenda item or information between staff, if that would be a fun person to introduce the commissioners.
So this is ignorant speaking, but what happened with the $600,000 thing that you guys were gonna do to the open?
Yeah, we're still moving that forward. You all and the Open Spaces Commission gave general thumbs up for me to keep moving forward with that. Next steps are for me to go to city council with that code change, which is scheduled in April. And then for a discussion, and then in May would be the ordinance change, which requires a first read and a second read. And then it's go to the races on the BBB tax renewal, which we're working with our friends in Economic Vitality on that
Just
campaign.
curious, I didn't know how fast.
Yeah, it's really been, it's continuing to move forward since we got that support last month. Yeah.
Might be worthwhile to see the specific language to what that involves.
Sure.
If we could hear.
I'd be happy to bring that in April.
What to review.
Will it have already gone to city council on
And then I
that?
think the discussion for council is on the 23rd.
So it might be on the May agenda then.
Well, I can bring it to the commission just to review the language that I'm gonna be proposing to
Yeah.
council.
That's all I was asking.
And we could actually schedule it for a vote as well, so that we have a more formal thumbs up. If you could include that as a formal vote, because we'll need to agendize that a little bit differently for a vote. Yeah.
Kind of moved on to,
Yeah,
agenda items for next meeting, so. So we've got park ranger intro and language for open space inclusion. Anything else anyone can think of?
Anything you guys have coming up? I mean,
since it's April, do we
you
still
love to be
want,
nosy. So
right?
tell us what your business.
Would we still want maybe sport courts since it's April? We're just getting even closer to a potential construction start date, or would you rather have a 1 month pause on that and do that in May?
Yeah, you have changes to present.
Possibly,
Think if you do, then yes.
right? Yeah. So that could be a potential agenda item.
We might have some updates on the west side park, at least as far as the community outreach goes, and what timing of that.
Yeah,
What it is that community outreach again?
So we'll bring any of that forward. If we have updates for you, we'll get those things on the agenda. As far as what we're working on, what we have coming up, honestly, you just heard like the budget information that you need provided today is our to-do list. So it's just continuing to move those things forward, and as we have updates or changes, we'll make sure to get those scheduled for you.
Random question, why not? I've been kind of following the water rate study. Is that going to impact this department at all?
In that we pay water rates, yes.
Okay, okay,
Yeah, I mean, we do pay, we're mostly on reclaim, we do pay whenever there are rate changes.
okay. Would that be something worth exploring later down the line as that process moves forward as well? Seeing how that all affects budget. I don't know, I'm just throwing stuff out there. for potential.
Possibly, I mean, we could bring forward information and ask them, but it's gonna be more informational. A couple of other things on my radar that we might bring to you. Our regional plan things. There's another thing that I recommended they come. Something, oh, there's a land availability and suitability study and code review going on right now, and I requested that they bring that information as it gets more along in the process, that they bring that forward to both of these commissions as well.
Are they into regional?
We're in the thick of it, so regional plan staff are writing chapters that are going through review. There's a regional plan committee. You can see all of that information online.
Yeah, no, Florida had set out an invite to go to those meetings.
The Parks Recreation Open Space chapter was reviewed by the committee last week. We all had a good hand in helping to develop that. And then they're also still going through scenario choosing. You may have seen information or emails about that. And all of those things are eventually going to merge together.
Yeah, another couple that sat in on those.
I would encourage the
Sure.
commission to go review those. They will not have time to come to the commission for a presentation. They just can't get around to all of them.
Yeah.
They're more taking the other approach of asking you to chime in and pay attention. So the video from that last week or 2 weeks, when was that meeting? 2 weeks ago?
Yes.
March 5th, I believe, should be available on the city's website. You search for region.
Very good. Anything else? Just to state or present as an agenda item for next meeting? I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but I'll certainly forward in something like I do.
Just for everyone's knowledge, I believe that meeting is April 15th.
The next meeting?
Yes.
Oof.
Yep. Rough day.
Rough day.
Rough day.
Why is that a rough day?
The accident.
Oh, that's right. I always forget what that is. On purpose. Well, with that being note, I think there's nothing further. We can go ahead and move to adjourn. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Something about this weather, my brain's just not working today.
Well, at least it stops snowing.